Warning, this episode of Starfleet Boy contains major spoilers for the first episode of Star Trek Picard, Remembrance. So you've been warned. If you're not caught up with everything, then please go watch it and come back and listen to our discussion. We'd love to have you.
Welcome to Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal discussion about our beloved series, Star Trek.
Are you recording your audio? We're going to have to... Oh, not yet? Oh, okay.
All right. I'm doing
All
it
right,
now.
now I'm recording. You should tell you that Starfleet is recording you.
All right.
All right, now I'm going to rely on your clap. It has to be a good clap because...
Oh, okay.
I'm going to sync the audio on your video because I want you to be surprised, see my surprise. So that's why there's no video yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Are we okay? Are we on the air now?
We are on the air.
Oh, okay.
Almost.
Almost.
Ready? Almost. All right. 1, 2,
All
3,
right.
clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. 1, 2, 3, clap. No, wait. It has to be synced with mine. Hold on.
All right.
One more. 1, 2, 3, clap. Perfect. All right. Now. All right. So I would like to present to you, Doctor, in honor
You have Patrick
of...
Stewart in your home right now.
In honor of Star Trek Picard, I present the full Starfleet Boy.
The full Starfleet Boy. Oh
I
my
am-
gosh!
Not wearing a wig or a hat today.
Look at that.
So I reveal to you and the audience
And the audience. Oh my gosh.
I think I rather look a lot like Shinzon with the streamlining
Hopefully you'll have a better
outcome or fate.
outcome than Shinzon, right?
Now,
I'd
if at
s-
any point
Wha-
it's
wha-
too distracting for
No.
you, I do have my...
No,
I do have
wow.
bliss, but-
Yeah. And it's Picard.
Are you
too.
honored? You're the first to
Wow, look
experience-
at that.
You're the first to experience the full Starfleet Boy,
Oh my God,
and
look at that.
now the audience as well. Look
And
at
the
that.
audience as well. Amazing.
When was the last time you saw the full Starfleet Boy? It's been a while,
Jesus
right?
Christ. Maybe.
Did I just throw off your Picard game?
Yeah, I don't know.
The whole discussion's derailed.
Wow. Should I don't know. Should I have shaved
That's
my
like-
head now? I don't know.
I think
I
so.
can't compete with that. I've got a bald spot there, but I can't compete.
You have something better. You have the Untamed Beast upon your. You don the Untamed Beast upon your head.
Wow.
And then look, I have this.
And look at that.
Beautiful.
What is that?
The Picard family crest. Let me bring it.
Oh yeah, I can see it.
You can see the Romulan.
I saw it. Yes.
His Romulans staff. You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Live and help.
Yeah.
They're wearing this, and he wears
Caretakers.
caretakers. I think that's a good word. And he also, not like the one in that Doctor Who thing.
No. No.
Hopefully not.
No.
And then of course you know this.
Yeah, wow.
So we're back on
Picard
another
out.
exciting
We're all
episode of
Picarded out
Starfleet
there.
Boy. I'm all Picarded out. I went.
Wow, look at that.
I went for it.
Full.
The full Picard. And
Wow.
we get, I think, the full Picard in this. We'll have to talk about it and find out. It's something we talk about regularly is, did we get the full Picard? We'll have to talk about that.
We'll have to talk about
that. So we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. We are focused on a new series, Star Trek Picard.
Wow.
And
This is the first time, right? We've had a new series on your
since Discovery.
show?
Discovery came out after we started. Believe it or not, we started our podcast before Star Trek. Oh, I see what you're. Okay. Sorry. Yes,
I'm sorry.
Doctor. This is the first time
For me, at least.
for you, because, and actually, I have a lot of interesting questions because I don't think you're gonna know what they used from Discovery in terms of special effects, because
No.
depending on when they tuned out. So I got a lot of. I might reveal some things to you that you don't know, which is really exciting. But yeah, so we're focused on Star Trek Picard. The last time, I don't think we've ever done one where on premiere day.
I don't think so. No.
So I'm gonna call this our reaction, because there will be another discussion, I think.
Oh, there will. Okay.
Well,
Sure.
Sean wants to be a part of it too.
Oh
and
well,
I
of
really wanna
course
talk
he
to him
has
too.
to be. Yeah, yeah.
And
of
he
course
couldn't
has
make
to
it tonight. His daughter is asleep, and that's a no-no. It's a
okay.
no-no time. But
That's no-no
I'm too
time. I
hyped. I'm
understand.
too excited. I had to talk about it. So I really appreciate that you were like, let's do it today.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Because I can stay up late today. So well, I can't, but I'm usually with Emma.
No.
So
Well, we're not gonna have a late discussion. I want to try to limit it to, we don't want to end prematurely, but I'd like to try to let's try to keep it under 2 hours if we can.
I can go with that. I can go with that.
Would you care to do the summary, or would you like me to do it? Like kind of should we just do it together? Shall I start?
I mean, my summary is going to be very short.
All right, I'll do my summary then, because
So,
I'm too excited,
'cause
Doctor.
you
I gotta,
like
I
all
gotta
this
do
detail.
a.
But I mean, everybody's seen it. Everyone who's watching this has seen it. Do we need to summarize?
Okay, we'll just start talking about it.
Right.
But I'd like to say a few things about the story to see if you
go
and
for it.
are. Because I think one of the things that's great about the summary is it's a great time for us to see where we stand with each other's perception of it, like what we each saw. And I think it's always exciting for me that when one of us is giving the summary and the other one we have to like interject. So so I'll do the quickest possible summary I can. Jean-Luc is back.
Jean-Luc Picard.
And he is retired, living at Chateau Picard. And well, actually, the show starts with a flashback, a dream.
A dream, not a flashback.
A dream, not a flashback. You're right.
By the way,
dream.
the D was a little off, wasn't it?
No, it was. What are you talking about? It was great.
But it wasn't exactly like the original.
There was what you're.
I'm talking about the deflector was not the same.
It was dimmer.
It was squarer.
Oh, really? I'm gonna have to.
More rectangular.
I'm sorry. So I'm usually good with this kind of minutia, but I didn't even notice that. But it looks pretty good. I thought it was very convincing to me as the D. I know it looked shinier and different, like tones.
It was more chrome.
There was a lot more chromish, reflectiveness to it and things like that. But I enjoyed.
But it was a dream,
that.
so I just put it off on. Oh, it's a dream. Things don't look the same in a dream.
Why'd you even bring that shit up then?
Because I'm here to be counterpoint to your
good. I like
boundless
okay.
enthusiasm. I'm
but
gonna
if
kind of
you're
bring it down a little.
So anyways, there's a dream sequence in which sounds pretty lovely. It's just Picard imagining that he's back aboard the Enterprise D and he's playing cards with the departed Data with Data, and they are having a really charming back and forth where Picard in the dream where Picard is trying to tell Data that he knows when he's bluffing, and then Data's left baffled as to what deception he can use because Picard just called out it's very clever. It's a very wonderful
it's like
reminder
your bluff is that you're not pretending to bluff or something like that.
He's like, well, I could tell you're trying to convince me that you're bluffing, so that I know that you're actually bluffing when you're not trying to convince me to bluff.
Right,
you're pretending to bluff, and then Data's like, oh, I just don't know what to do now. You've totally derailed my strategy. And then all of a sudden, as in dreams, you see Mars in the background. And did you happen to see the Children of Mars, Doctor? All right, well, that's fine. You don't have to, but you see Mars in the background. If you saw the Children of Mars, you kind of know what's going to happen. If you saw the trailers, you kind of know what's going to happen. But in the background, Mars just starts to get bombarded by some kind of attack, and it actually looks like it looks like it blows up, which we find out later it doesn't blow up, but it's still on fire. Basically, it ignited some kind of gases in the atmosphere that were there on Utopia Planitia. And then Picard wakes up and he's on his chateau, and we meet number one, and we meet we go for a walk through the vineyard with him, and there's like this beautiful melodic music playing in the background, and then he comes back to the chateau after his walk, his constitutional, I imagine, with his pit bull, and and then it's just like very Downton Abbey, which someone described it as, which I like really love. Downton Abbey in space.
Yeah, I think that describes some of the pacing in the show episode,
which I'm very pleased at too, actually, to be honest. For a lot of the scenes, you may have problems with it. I don't know yet. You're staying quiet. You haven't interjected, but I think this is like. I'm
letting you do your summary.
Okay.
If you want me to interject, I'll just.
No, you're making funny faces, so I'm just wondering as to what that could be. Maybe you're just still distracted by the full Starfleet boy here, but.
No, it's not that.
But anyways, so. We meet the caretakers, and forgive me, I forget their names. Do you happen to recall them?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But they're Romulan.
They're Romulans,
cast,
and they're survivors of the catastrophe that occurred, and we still don't know anything about it at this point in the show, but we come to learn that the Admiral has agreed to give an interview, and apparently it's his first one ever since the
event,
the calamity, and it is a calamity, which from what I gather, it's not just like this is like a significant loss of life, both on the Federation side, but even greater on the Romulan side. We don't know the full scale of it yet, but anyways, so we get this scene, these scenes of Picard preparing for his day, of getting ready, like as we commented earlier, like a very slow pace, very easygoing, and there's some really awesome moments. And one that stood out to me on my second watching was that the reporter arrives after around breakfast time, and their crew is setting up. This is, by the way, the FNN, apparently the Federation News Network, which is new. We never heard of them before. We knew there was like a way of proliferating news, but we always.
I do have to interject. It reminded me. Do you remember Starship Troopers?
Yes, it reminded me a lot.
Remember they'd have those news breaks.
That's a great reference, but it also I think
kind of reminded me like, it's.
Yeah, and we get the first hint of it in this part, the civilian life, in Generations, because you definitely have those reporters hounding Captain Kirk, and there was a similar vibe of like the real world reporters in a we never saw that before.
Wow,
if you thought we never saw that before,
absolutely right.
Yeah, yes, I am right. I'm the
very nice.
The full Starfleet boy is here.
It's a very nice. Oh man, I'm just gonna step. I'm just gonna roll aside and let you take over.
No, just kidding, just kidding. But
I'm so glad we're doing this tonight. This could not be replicated tomorrow.
No, you can't.
This is now.
You have to. You can't sit in it too long, right? To have
this is a snapshot of euphoria. That
I am so excited.
In this moment.
Okay, I can't stress enough how hype I am, and I appreciate you putting up with it. I'm trying to tone it down.
I bear witness. I bear witness to this. Continue.
All right. So, but one of the things that I don't know if you noticed it, but I liked. Oh, I have been looking for this for days now, and it just showed up.
just showed up in the middle of your show here.
In the middle of my summary. Wow, that was kind of a moment. A very nice reminder. Okay. Anyways, it was magnetically here, and I just didn't notice it. That's funny.
It's wonderful.
There's a moment where both the reporter and Picard are preparing for the interview, and you get these like back and forth, between the two of them getting ready, and Picard is looking in an actual mirror, and she's looking in a holographic mirror.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was that was a really good like kind of visual, subtle reminder of these two generations, if you will. So we're seeing, in a way, I 100%.
That was very classy, yeah.
Yeah, I 100% relate to Jean-Luc's. I feel like even though he's much older than we are, that's our kind of like generation. That like,
yeah.
and even more apt. This episode kind of like actually links him with the greatest generation and with Dunkirk, which we'll get to a reference here, and then again people forgetting history and things like that. And I thought that was really interesting because reporters, we should expect them to be among the most knowledgeable among us. Like, you want your reporters to be the ones. I think more history majors should become journalists. Doctor, a call to you. No, I'm just kidding.
I agree with you. And actually, it's funny enough that you're making this commentary here. One of our greatest, Jim Lair, passed away today. As a matter of fact,
in the McNeil
the PBS
era.
News. But Rob, exactly. There you go. You and I, we grew up with Robert McNeil and Jim Lair, and Jim Lair passed away at 86 today. So he was certainly an example of someone who knew history and brought that knowledge with interviews with people ranging from Netanyahu,
especially especially if you're going to interview leaders and figures like that. And I'm not saying that we've lost that now. We haven't. We still have like great reporters. We just lost one.
We have less of it,
but we have a lot less of it. And sadly, in the Federation and Picard's time, it looks like we have even fewer of that. And that's where the trend is. And I think that's the ultimate commentary here in this scene. One of the ultimate commentaries here.
That's a great observation on your part.
Thank you, sir.
I really, and I think it shows the director on the first 3 episodes, I believe. She's phenomenal.
She is phenomenal. Her name is I think it's Hanel. Oh, we don't do research. We apologize to you if you're listening to this. we do research, but we're also old.
Is Hanel
Hanel
Culpepper.
Culpepper, thank you.
And
so huge kudos to you, Hanel Culpepper.
Oh, just a phenomenal job. And she's been working in a lot of television last number of years, and she actually did a little short on how to stand in line for a Star Wars movie, and it's set at the time of the Phantom Menace premiere, which is pretty funny if you can catch it. It's on her website.
Oh wow, that's a really nice credential there. Good research. I just said we don't do research on Starfleet Boy, so very nice. Okay,
some of us do, but
ooh, shots fired! Look at that!
Look
I
at that!
The desktop.
The desktop. All right, but I interrupted. Go ahead. So continue.
Thank you. I feel like you might be enjoying my summary a little bit. Just a little.
I'm enjoying you. Just this is a glorious day for you. I'm like I said, I'm bearing witness. You have been waiting for this for so long.
A lot.
And
I'm very
happy.
I think
for you.
I think I lit the first candle, like many years ago, when Nemesis was being touted as the last. I said no, It can't be. But I didn't expect it to be a TV show. But still, I said no. It can't be. It cannot be the end of Jean-Luc and company. By the way, we're very worried about Geordi because according to the new Countdown comics, they released another Countdown comic series,
which I haven't read,
leading up to Picard. I haven't read it either, but I got some information from it saying that Geordi was the director of the Utopia Planitia space yards. So I'm very nervous because no one's come up in this episode, and LeVar Burton is not confirmed as a guest star in this. Neither LeVar, Gates McFadden, or
well, there's the second season, you know.
Yes, well, we know now that Whoopi Goldberg has been.
Did you see that? I'm sorry. I know we're throwing it all off.
It's okay.
Did you see that? Was
emotional.
That's television, let me tell
you. That was really good.
That was oh my god. When Patrick Stewart asked her and Whoopi Goldberg's so honored.
Like, she seems really relaxed, but you know that she's like super calculating and like controlled, and like she knows what she's up to. She knows what she's doing, and it was great to see her. And I mean calculating in like a good way, not in a bad way.
Yeah.
But she just looks totally taken aback, and then you can see her totally remember the experience, and the emotion just all comes through. So
that was wonderful.
That was a wonderful moment. And then they hug and stuff, and I think it was, who was it? Was it Bette Midler who's like, well, you're gonna have to get rid of this.
That's so not Bette Midler, but it's okay.
Who is that? Who's that?
Apologies to Bette Midler and to the host of The View, who you're saying looks like Bette Midler.
Wasn't Barbara Walters the original host of The View? Wasn't she the original?
Who's also not on The View anymore. But go ahead. Let's get back to the summary before you...
Was it really not Bette Midler? I mean, I was watching a low-res stream of it. Okay, so I just ruined that. Anyways, Patrick Stewart says she can do whatever the hell she wants, and I was like, yes, she can.
Yeah, no, I watched that this morning at work, like at 5 a.m, and it almost brought me to tears. I was like, wow.
So, wow, you've been up at interesting hours. So have I. I saw this very early.
Those are my normal hours. Those are my normal hours, unfortunately. But go ahead, your summary. So
back to the scene where the interview starts. The interview starts, and well, before it goes bad, we learn a lot of things. So we learn that we it's kind of a great catch up. Here's what's been going on.
Yeah.
So apparently,
it's a great device. Yeah.
At the same time as Star Trek 2009, this is happening. This is all the events that we hear about is happening at that moment. So Spock alludes to a Romulan star. I think
supernova.
Somehow we know it's the Hobus system, but I'm not sure how we know that. I forget. Anyways, going supernova. And that, like, he was unable to save Romulus. So we know that Romulus gets destroyed. We didn't know anything except those things. When Star Trek Picard was announced and they had that line in the trailer about the rescue armada, I don't know if you remember if we were on those discussions together, but I immediately referenced Dunkirk, which made me very happy. But it's an obvious... to me, it's an obvious reference. Yeah. To me, it's a very obvious reference. But it's a delightful reference nonetheless, because it makes it very clear as to the magnitude of what's happening. It's a great way to give... Without showing us visually, which we don't actually see it.
We don't. No.
We understand completely the magnitude of what Picard has created, and it's actually cleverly done in the scene too, because she also mentions the pyramids. For those that don't know Dunkirk, like herself,
right.
We just know that it's a colossal feat on the part of Picard. And this is great because it kind of gives him like this, what do you do after you save the galaxy already, and from like the Borg and things like that? What can you do? And what I love about the fact that he arranged and was the architect of this rescue armada is that is the most noble thing you could do. It's saving, and she says it, 900 million lives. So I think it should have been bigger, the number, frankly. I'm thinking of like the fact that we have 7 billion alone on Earth at this time. So
right.
But I think she says 900 million Romulan lives. Actually, she specifies Romulan lives, and that's another great moment in the scene.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah.
Where Picard says lives, like just
lives. Right?
Lives, like
we're not distinct. Like, who cares what kind of lives they are? If we're saving lives, why do we care?
Not only that, it's like that is, for those who wondered, that is the Federation. That's like what it's all about. Like,
Star Trek 6,
the Federation, Star Trek 6, everything. Yeah, it's like let them die.
Well, there were echoes of Star Trek 6 here.
Totally.
You
nice.
were referencing the 2009 Star Trek movie. We have Spock, who was trying to save Romulus. He tried to do the same thing with Klingons. And look at the crap that he got for that. And now Picard, generation later, look at what obvious difficulty he had.
Right, exactly. So apparently, and this seems to be the correlative here, is apparently rogue synths. This is something that we learned too, which is Bruce Maddox was successful in doing what we all feared to a degree, and I think that's because without Data's guidance, he had to make decisions, and apparently the resources of the Federation were being strained. So I think that's what probably created this whole idea of like synthetic life forms. I bet you they're all like some kind of workers or assistants doing exactly what they say in Measure of a Man that you don't want to do, in that beautiful scene with Guinan, where she's like, oh, you'll just have these disposable life forms. So apparently all this happens in this time period too, and so synths are real. In the time that we left Star Trek, Data was unique. He was an android. There was the B4 in lore, of course, which we don't hear about. Conspicuously, we don't hear about in this episode, as you mentioned earlier. The only thing we pre-talked about was that. We haven't really talked about anything else.
That's a big thing.
It's a big thing. So anyways, to kind of make it more succinct, basically the result of the attack on Mars put the Federation in a fear state, and they withdrew. Starfleet withdrew. A lot of the rescue armada was destroyed. Apparently it was on Utopia Planitia, the ferries that they had, the warp capable ferries. And this kind of makes something interesting from Children of Mars that people were kind of like, including myself, questioning, but I think it makes sense now. But anyways, that created this chain of events where the Federation no longer offered its assistance to the Romulans, and many, many lives were lost. So 91,000 lives on Mars were lost, and potentially close to 900 million lives were lost in the Romulan Star Empire, is what I gathered.
Okay, now you've seen it twice. I've only seen it once.
Yeah.
But we...
Actually, I've seen it
4 times. Oh, wow.
I saw it 4 times. I heard it twice, and I saw it twice.
Like I said, this moment here, folks.
I listened to the audio. I listened to the audio. This is the obsession that you remember from high school. Unbridled obsession.
Yeah.
This is what I would like to point out, and this is not. This is gonna just sound like a jab on Discovery, so I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, go ahead, jab at Discovery.
I usually will only watch a Discovery episode once, but I still love the show. I'm just telling you that.
No. You like the show.
I like the show.
You love this show.
I love. Yes, this is true. I like Discovery a lot.
Let me
I
interpret
love
that
this
for
show.
the audience.
You can translate the full Starfleet quote for the audience. I
because
appreciate
it's just like gush coming out of you. So since you've watched it 4 times,
listen to it twice. So on the commute,
experienced it 4 times.
I have a lot of
this.
Yes.
So but we don't know what kind of rescue actually occurred then, right? Because it sounds like some of it obviously never happened because of the attack on Mars, but some of it had to have happened because we had survivors.
Because we do see survivors, and they seem to revere
Jean-Luc.
Of
course, yeah.
And
yeah.
she says, "We remember what you did." So he took an action of some kind, which caused him to leave Starfleet. So I think he put his badge down, and probably
an act of insurrection,
and then perhaps an act of insurrection, which he's done before.
Wow, I can't believe
but we don't know.
Said that.
This is the part, audience. If you're listening to this, hopefully you've watched Star Trek Picard. And if you have not, I'm sorry. You should.
Yeah, you should be watching this at all. I don't know why you're
Go
watching
watch it and then come back. But this part's speculation. We don't actually know.
Okay, but some of it happened, and then what was what would have been the complete rescue.
Because there's Romulan operatives working. By the way, Doctor, I totally missed another. I'm not going in linear order here, but
it's okay.
Also in the opening sequence before the credits, we meet Daj, and she's in her apartment with her boyfriend, and she gets attacked by these like
Romulan.
Cyberpunk. Well, we don't know that they're Romulan at that point, but yes, we find out they're Romulan. But they're some kind of cyberpunks or Tron from Tron Legacy type guys. I loved their outfits. I'm not making fun, but that's what it reminded me of.
Actually,
we just need to put Daft Punk music behind the fight scene, and it's like
yeah. Request for Daft Punk to score episode
parts
of Star Trek Picard.
I agree. Hey, that's a great idea. But Daj, who is helpless at first, and we think she's human. We've actually all wondered. This was one of the things I kind of guessed at, and I was right, but not quite in the way that I guessed at it. But it I knew Daj was an android, or here referring to them as synthetics. Like I kind of felt that from the trailers and like the little bit that we got. I avoided spoilers, but I got a little bit from the trailers, and I was like, oh, she's probably, there's going to be a link with Data there, and it turns out to be the case. So Daj, who escapes from all that, she, that happens in the beginning. She suddenly turns on and becomes full android mode, and she's badass. And this is kind of like the kind of action style that we didn't have in the TNG era, but you can imagine that Data was fully capable of doing the same exact types of things, like, because you do have Data, maybe she's more advanced in certain ways, which we could talk about later, because there's another scene where she exhibits her powers again. But here she's phenomenal. She's able to subdue the attackers very quickly and very easily, and by subdue I mean kill, like lethally, kill them all with a hood over her head. So she's just doing this completely, using her advanced cybernetics.
Right. Yeah, she's blind to the She's blinded
she doesn't
by the hood over her head. Right.
When she's safe for a moment, we find out her boyfriend, who's a Zahian, which you wouldn't know because that's a species introduced in Star Trek Discovery. So he's a Zahian.
You're right.
But it's okay. It's one of the things. It's all right. There's no problem.
I'm discovering him here.
Yes,
Star Trek Picard. So.
In Star Trek Picard, it's totally fine. But he's murdered, and then she's just crazy beside herself, and she also is like very confused as to what's happening. And then she has this vision of Jean-Luc all of a sudden, like, and it's just there's 4 lights behind him actually in the vision. So I don't know if that's anything, but
wow.
but
Look
there
at
were
the level that you're going to here. Wow.
There were 4 lights. Maybe there were 5.
Let's
there
call David Warner back. Okay.
There might have been one behind his head. I've been watching a lot of Patrick Stewart interviews, and he very reverently refers to David Warner in an interview that I saw.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Interview.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
okay.
that was nice. Yeah.
It was very nice. David Warner, not a stranger to
Star Trek
Star Trek at all. Yeah, very nice. 3 times, if you count that episode, right? He was the Earth
Part 5
ambassador on Nimbus, right?
Nimbus 3. Yeah.
3.
Star Trek 6.
And then he plays,
Gorkon.
of course, Chancellor Gorkon,
right?
One of those greatest performances in Star Trek. And then this, which is the Cardassian episode where Picard is interrogated and tortured. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so digressing. Sorry. So Picard is having this interview. We learn all this through exposition. We learn all this stuff about what's been going on since Star Trek Nemesis, and we find out about the kind of the calamity, as I refer to it, that occurred. And Picard leaves Starfleet, and when she says, she kind of puts him on the spot, and he was not expecting it because he kind of he thought he had made an arrangement to not talk about this at all, but she puts him on the spot, and he says, because it wasn't Starfleet anymore. It was no longer Starfleet, is what he says. That's why he left. And then he gets angry, and he calls her out on a whole bunch of stuff, including not knowing her history and not knowing. He's like, you just kind of like, when history happens for you, it's just like, oh, with a flick of the wrist, it's over, because that is kind of like the mentality, and we see it more. Again, more commentary relating to today, which I really love. This is the kind of stuff that I eat up, that Star Trek kind of puts a mirror, in a sense, towards us.
Right.
And then you see things in a different way, and you wonder, are those things true about us?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great thing to have a conversation of. And we could dive in so deep on this. We could probably have an episode just on the subject, but to keep it succinct, he basically says the interview's over. And Daj catches a glimpse of that interview as she's walking aimlessly through the streets of Boston. And by the way, we see Boston of the future, which is cool. I think it's the first time ever. Mm-hmm. And we learn we also learn she's from Seattle, so maybe we'll see Seattle of the future at some point too, which would be very exciting, because Starfleet Boy was born in Seattle.
That's true. That's true. You were stationed there.
I was stationed in Seattle when this show was born, so that was very cool. And I have been stationed in Boston, as you know. So I've been to that city as well, and I loved seeing those two cities. Well, we haven't seen Seattle, but I love seeing Boston on screen. And it's very reminiscent of the style that we get in the 2009 Star Trek. Because previous to this, I don't think we've ever seen a city at night on Earth. Like, Star Trek kind of has stayed away from Earth, leaving it as
and raining, by the way.
And raining, yeah. It was very Blade Runner-esque.
I know it's a minor detail, but
but like, shades of Blade Runner.
In Next Generation, it always seemed like the weather was always perfect whenever they were on Earth. Never
because of the
weather, in the sky, and
weather grids and stuff like that. But I assume that they do like to mix it up. I mean, I would think
would hope. The trees need some water, right?
It's true, but anyways, so when she sees that, she realizes she needs to find him. So we get another. Yeah. We get Picard after the interview. He's sitting with number one, having a glass of wine, feeling sorry for himself,
and quoting Shakespeare.
And then all of a sudden, Daj appears, and then we get our first interactions with them together, and she's just kind of like. She's drawn to him. She doesn't know why. She explains her whole story, and even though it's very confusing, he's very kind, as we expect him. We've seen this from Jean-Luc before. He's just so kind, and as as his girlfriend in Star Trek Insurrection says, going back to Insurrection again, he just engenders trust, and he does. Jean-Luc engenders trust, and you're like, did he really just go to did he just really
Insurrection? Do we have to go back to that movie?
Or Star Trek Erection, as you like to call it. But anyways, he engenders trust because of his kindness, and he takes care of her, and he and his staff, the household staff of Chateau Picard,
Romulan upstairs, downstairs.
Upstairs, exactly. Except they all seem to be on the same level. Repair her wound that she has on her forehead, and we learn through these like scenes very interesting things about her. So we know something's off about her because shows this impressive abilities, but she seems to be human. Right. She bleeds. Yes. If you prick her,
prick us, do we not bleed? Yeah.
Bleed.
Okay. So the archives.
So Picard. The tabernacle. Hold on. So Picard. I know you're dying to get there. So Picard, he tells her to go to bed, and then he has another dream, which is the one where Data is painting. And Data offers him to. Data says, "Will you finish it, sir?" And Data's like. Picard's like, I don't know how, and he's like, that is not so. That is not true. You do know how. And so then he wakes up from his dream, and
which, by the way, I just want to point out, he was asleep. Like, it's almost like he
was working.
He wasn't right. He wasn't in bed. He was at a desk.
At a desk, and he was working on this.
So
Dixon Hill. He was working at.
Right, like
he was working it out.
Working the case. Yeah, exactly. And he sees the painting behind him.
And he's like, no way. And now, interestingly about this painting, I don't know if you noticed this when you watched it, but the one that we see here, the face of the figure is turned.
Obscure. Yeah.
Well, it's turned, actually.
But it's also slightly obscure.
In the dream, the face is unfinished. So we don't see the face in the dream. Data's actually painting the painting, and Picard's subconscious is remembering the painting.
Yes,
of the painting is what's happening.
Right,
and that leads him when he wakes up to look at one of the finished paintings, because there's two, and then he's like, "But no, I remember a version with a face on it." And that's not the one. So then he goes to
the Starfleet archives.
Your favorite place to work in the future. That's your library.
That's
your library. If you lived,
yes, absolutely.
That's where you would be. I thought of you 100%. You wouldn't be the hologram. You'd be the actual curator who's a grumpy codger who's complaining about the budget and why he has a holographic staff.
Where are my real people? Why is everyone a hologram at this damn place?
I make that canon. That's officially canon. You are that character who we didn't see.
Thank you,
today.
Sir. That is an honor.
But anyways, we get to the archives. Very interesting place. A lot of stuff going on in the background. It's very massive, and we have this escort, a librarian, if you will, taking Picard. Escort. What's that?
It's a holographic index. And
I want to say I saw the hologram as a she, but I think it's okay to say they. No, we don't know. Because when I watched it with someone else, they thought it was androgynous, and I agree with that. There is a deliberate androgyny. There's a David Bowie circa, going on. But anyways, so the hologram says, okay, well, this is as far as I go. It makes a joke too, which is kind of funny, about selling tickets. So apparently Picard has a secure room, like a vault, or I call it a tabernacle. I don't know if that's appropriate. but he has a secure room in the archives with all of his to-dos, like from his missions. And so you see the Stargazer model, you see the Captain's Yacht model, you see like
isn't the Enterprise E in there too?
Oh, I didn't notice. No, that I think you're thinking of it is the Captain's Yacht from the E, but I didn't see the E. Maybe I missed it.
Okay. I thought that was the E. Okay.
No, that big thing was the Captain's Yacht from the E. So it's again another reference to Insurrection, because that's where we first see the Captain's Yacht.
I thought okay. Well, you saw it twice. I only saw it once. I thought it was because the yacht seemed shorter to me. This seemed very elongated.
Yeah,
like it had long
so it was
cells.
a wide-angle shot, and it was sitting in the corner, and the corners or the edges of wide-angle lenses do elongate things. So I recognize the effect.
All right.
And I also saw it an insane number of times.
All right.
Like I actually paused.
All right. I defer to you.
I could still be wrong.
I know you're an emotional, but I just want to interject because the whole Starfleet archives thing just like blew my mind when I saw it, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. And I just thought to myself, I mean, do all admirals get this?
I think so.
Is there a Kirk? Because
there has to be.
If you are a person of some note, let's say, for lack of a better word, you can certainly, there's lots of people who donate their writings, there's a collection, that's their legacy. Obviously, presidential libraries are an example of something like that, where you have all the president's, letters and correspondences and all these things. So I was just thinking when I saw this, I was like, well, so I mean, Picard's an admiral. So is this something all admirals get? Is there one for Kirk somewhere? There has to be one for Spock. I mean, I just kind of found it
wonderful.
I was like, oh my god!
I told you that's where you want to work. Like that's you're the Boothby of the Starfleet archives.
I thought,
and it's actually parts of it are available to the public because it's actually referred to as the Starfleet Archive Museum. If you look at the building from outside. So it's both a library and a museum, which suits the same purpose that you were talking about, because in many ways presidential libraries are historical and exhibits and things like that. So they're both the same. I like that you tied it into that. I didn't put that together with the when I thought of it. I had the same like wonderful like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. Ideas about it. The other thing that was great is that like. It's totally possible that the entire contents of the reason the library, as massive as it is, but you notice that like it had these tall like Jedi archive type things, right? Yeah. Well, those packets could actually store the patterns of these objects,
right?
And then they're materialized when you need them. Which is what we
saw with the painting.
So you can have like you could literally, your concept is correct, because you could literally have every admiral's effects turned into patterns and stored in these like in these archives basically, and so when you need them you recall them, and then the replicator just pulls up the pattern and brings it back to life. It is extraordinary. This is the kind of thing that Star Trek I missed like about Star Trek, and why a show set in the future of the timeline makes so much sense, because you can see that this is so much more advanced than anything we've seen. Even though it's an archive, people are probably not going to think about this scene too much, but the science in here and like the kind of like sci-fi,
really
the hard sci-fi here is very deep and very, again, another podcast can be done just talking about the archives. As a matter of fact, I'm totally willing to do that at another time if you
for sure.
We
I'm down
we
for
can go deep into the archives, as they say. But yeah, so he pulls out of the archive the companion painting, and opens it up, and he's like so stunned by what he sees that he calls the archive hologram back and says, because it is a pretty crazy revelation once we see it as the audience. That to me was like awesome. He says, has anyone been in here even for maintenance? And they respond no, and all of a sudden Picard's just like shocked, and we get the shot of Daj. It is Daj,
right, in a
David
painting.
Daj, 30 years before,
right. And once again, you pointed it out before with the mirror and the holographic things. So, something
and
very
twins.
analog.
And digital.
Now we have something very analog, a painting, and this is something that is just a wonderful thread that runs through the whole episode. Is this? There's almost a gothic quality to what's going on in the screen. Like, there was a part of me that when I was watching it, I was like, this is. You can almost compare this to sort of like a. Picard is like a retired Sherlock Holmes, and instead of tending to the bees, he's gone to tend to the vineyard. And you're like,
very nice.
The great Picard tending to a vineyard, which is the same thing we say, the great Sherlock Holmes with bees. But, hey, that's what he's doing. And then, a mysterious woman, it comes out of the, from a painting and all this stuff. All of these things, this is like a great mystery, a gothic
Dr.
mystery.
Humbert.
Yeah.
I know Nicholas Mayer consulted. I think this is what he was consulting on.
Well, I don't know. I'm giving credit to Michael.
It's possible.
To Michael Chambon.
I mean, Picard's been floating around for a while now, and
right? But Michael Chambon, who's
he's a brilliant. Yeah, this
brilliant,
could be all.
And I feel there's a great literary quality to this, and even
to the deep stuff. Yeah,
to the deep stuff, and even the whole, the dreams. That's something that if you read a lot of Gothic literature, you'll have a main character who, they'll swoon and they'll go to sleep, and they'll have something, some dream or a nightmare that gives them clues, and then they'll suddenly, what? They'll wake up like Picard did in that part.
Like we had in this,
and then
absolutely.
he sees the painting.
That's great.
And all of that just felt, this is beyond Star Trek. This is going deeper into just literature. It had a quality that was just very unique. And Picard, we saw on Next Generation, like Dixon Hill, which is a little pulpier, but this seems a little more to me Holmesian, Gothic. And even him with the dog. And it reminded me of Toby in a way. Like I really feel like this is kind of almost
really
like
cool.
a Holmesian take on Picard.
And either way, I mean, the idea of the great detective period, Picard in his career has been a great detective.
An archaeologist. I mean, what is an archaeologist?
Yeah.
But
a detective.
A detective of history. Yeah.
Of history. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Oh, high five, Doctor.
All right, there we go.
Very nice.
Hey.
Wow, I'm so distracted now from that. Like, my mind is swirling with awesome connections. That was very cool. Wow. So, anyways, he while this is going on, going back to Daj, she. Before he came to the archives, his staff
she had run into the night.
Well, not escaped because she wasn't.
She'd run into the night.
She'd run into the night. She
which
had
is
left.
Another,
yes, it's true.
Wait, but she's gone.
She fled, and so Picard says, "Let me know as soon as you hear about her." But he's still sussing out this mystery. He's on his mission. He's doing his thing, and in the meantime, she's like alone in Paris. We know it's Paris because they show a beautiful shot of future Paris, which is cool. There are a lot more flying vehicles in this iteration of Star Trek that we've seen before, but it makes sense. I kind of always wanted that.
I guess you're right.
But anyways, she's like kind of, just aimless there, and she decides to call her mother, and that's an interesting scene. And I have a couple of questions about that scene. Maybe I don't know what you thought, but she talks to her mother, and her mother is trying to console her and says, honey, to the effect something of go back to Picard. And she's like, Picard? I never mentioned Picard. And she's like, of course you did. And then she the screen glitches for a second, and then she then she gets really assertive, and she's like, listen, you need to get to Picard. You need to get back to him. You're safe with Picard. Close your eyes and focus. And when she does that, and all of a sudden she unlocks another ability, and very reminiscent of Data, she's able to very quickly access all these data nets and things like that, and get to tracking Picard, which we find out later which makes sense, is very difficult to do. You need a high level of security clearance to know where Jean-Luc Picard is, notorious number one over here. Apparently, and she's notorious number two. But so she goes to him, and we don't
the archive
to the archive
outside the archive.
By the way, I don't think we see it clearly here, but in the trailer, it's suggested that transporters.
We do see it.
Oh, we do see that. So they're transporter gates. They're like doorways that you just walk through.
We see them.
So she probably found one in Paris and instantly was in San Francisco, which is crazy also for Star Trek. That wasn't done before.
Actually, this is something that was seen in another Gene Roddenberry show, which I thought was a nice. I don't know if this was intended to be a nod.
Earth Final Conflict?
There we go. You know it. Remember?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally forgot that. That's a great. Yeah, it might be a nod. Who knows? That's very cool.
I thought that was a very Roddenberry-esque idea because I saw it in Final Conflict.
And people are, it's like literally so fast that you see that people are just like walking, and they continue walking. Like they know they're just going to come out. And what an experience that must be. Like you're in Miami and you can work in another place and you're there instantly. It's kind of like it's very Jetsons. Yeah. What's that? Unless you're Dr. McCoy. Yeah, because actually
you're gonna. Yeah, he takes the train. Yeah. He takes the high-speed train.
Unless you activate the reserve activation clause, and then he has to do whatever you say. But anyways, so Daj and Picard are reunited, and there's a really great scene where Picard is trying to tell her everything he thinks that's happening, and at this point Picard believes that she's another daughter of Data. Like he thinks that that he must have done this somehow, that he's responsible for this somehow, and he says something really beautiful. He's like,
you're going for it, yeah. The line.
The line was the most courageous and what was it?
No. But I'm referring to the line where she's like, wait a minute. So you're saying she reacts badly to being.
She says I'm a soulless killing machine, right? She says.
And what does he tell her about? She says no, but I remember this and this, and what does he tell her? Something.
He says those memories are yours, and no one can take them away from you.
And what an interesting thing for him to say, because.
Oh no! There's something I'm not putting together, Doctor.
The inner light.
That's amazing. That's true. He has a memory of another life. That's not his real life. Wow.
That's not his real life, but there's still a legitimacy to those memories. Just because they didn't happen, they are still relevant to the person.
That's really heavy. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's great.
Who else could tell her that?
Except Jean-Luc.
Other than Jean-Luc Picard. So, again, the relevant, it has to be, only Picard could tell another human being something like that, right?
Doctor, you may have hair, but you are the full Picard. as well tonight. You are also you are the full doctor tonight.
I'll take that.
You are the full doctor tonight. Wow, on fire with that one. That's a cool idea. Wow. Okay, very nicely done. I was focused more on obviously the feels here, where he but what I love about the show is it hits you with the meat and the feels. You get both. You get the feels and you get like the meaty, juicy, wonderful stuff to contemplate and think about, which is what you want. Right. It's so cool.
There you go. As opposed to another show that we used to watch.
I still watch it, but I don't talk about it anymore. I just don't talk about it anymore.
I don't watch it or talk about it anymore. Moving back to Picard. So people come to attack her. She reveals to him that she actually is starting to understand how to use her new abilities. She's like, I was able to track you. He's really impressed by that, but that's not the point, which I also like too, is that he's impressed, but he's like, no, but this is the real point here, and that's what you just brought out, which is cool. So she senses that her attackers are back. Yeah. Which is more than I think Data would be able to do. I just want to point out, Data never really had a spider
well, she's
sense.
definitely
So she's got more going on up
she's
there.
Way more advanced, and we got. Well, this is the part where we're gonna, I want to discuss this at length, and we could do it now if we want to, but we're trying to do this like loosey goosey summary here. But she grabs him, and they run to the roof of the building, and it's heartbreaking because he is out of breath
completely.
And almost can't make it, and I
know how that feels.
I know how it feels too.
I know how that feels.
All you youngins out there who watch this, do not be fooled by my visage. I am very old.
Let me tell you, you're like 10 years younger
without the thing.
Really. I think when you're bald, it just hides because you have no tells, you have no grays to, you know what I'm saying. I
did cleanly, I did try to be as clean as possible with this, but I did want a little hint.
You're timeless when you're like that.
The Jean-Luc there, which is why I think Patrick Stewart looks so wonderful all the time. But we digress too much. Anyways, they catch up with them, and she goes into full powerhouse badass bitch android mode, and Dodge just like completely starts to decimate these Romulan attackers, protecting Picard like Data would do, which is beautiful. Also, immediately she and Picard have this bond. He's protective of her, but she's very protective of him too. In fact, she runs away because she was afraid he was in danger in the first place, is what she tells her mother. And this was a shocker to me. I did not expect this, considering all the media we knew about the character. And
that was shocking.
But total shocker. She dies. A Romulan bites down, which we, on a capsule of some kind, and spits out acid. I think normally the acid is just meant to dissolve the operative, but he spits it at her in a spiteful manner to try to kill her as well. And she starts to disintegrate. And Patrick Stewart's acting is so great. He is just the same reaction we're having. He's having it, and it looks so real. No, absolutely. What is happening? This is not supposed to happen. This is not what he wanted. He was going to take her to the Daystrom Institute. He was going to unlock the secrets to what's going on.
Yeah.
All of that is totally in front of his face, and he had this connection with her, and all of a sudden she's gone.
That was quite a plot twist. I was not expecting that.
And not just a plot twist because it's been done before, but very impactful because in a short period of time we get this connection between the two characters, and it's so good. It's so it's done beautifully. You believe it. You know what I mean? We know Picard's regret from the end. Nemesis may have its problems, but that scene where he's just staring, when he's transported back to the Enterprise, and he's just, I can't believe what just happened. He lost his friend Data, his dear friend.
Yeah.
You know?
And now, yeah, his daughter.
Who he looked at. I think he looked at Data in a way as a son.
Yeah.
In many ways, or not just a contemporary, but as a child that he helped bring into consciousness. And certainly all these things. We don't have to go into that, but all of a sudden, he's knocked out of this blast, and then we cut to Chateau Picard, and he's back there with his caretakers, and they're nursing him back to health. And I want to know. I'm okay with not knowing, but I want to know: did they go rescue him, or they spoke to the police? Apparently, he must have been knocked out and attended to on the scene and cleared to go home, because there was no hospital that he had to go to or anything like that, so he was sent home. So he must have not been knocked out so bad that he needed to stay at a facility, right? But anyways, they retrieve him, and we get the impression that they did retrieve him, because when Picard's trying to tell what happened, they're like, there was no girl. What do you mean? They just saw you running by yourself in the feed.
They refer to the feed, right? So they're talking about a security feed.
And so apparently she's able to cloak herself from that technology, which, by the way, is stuff that's happening in real life.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I see. I didn't interpret it that way at all.
Oh, okay.
I interpreted it as that the feeds have been fixed.
That could be it too. But they
because
keep talking about
then everybody else has to have a cloaking thing. The Romulans as well.
But they might. That might
Which
be
they
a real
might.
They might.
Yeah,
they might all have been cloaked.
I interpreted something more nefarious, that maybe something happened, but Starfleet doesn't really want anyone to know, and they're like, no, there's nothing on the feed, and maybe that's how I interpret it. But it could.
I think it could go
be what you said. Yeah, that's true.
It could go either way. But his Romulan companion is the one that brings up the cloaking device, so that's why I wondered. About that.
That's true. I didn't even think of that.
And anyways, so Picard gets back up, and he goes to Okinawa. Lots of travel in this episode. Let me tell you.
Well, but as he's getting up, there's some very interesting dialogue that he delivers, which I think is very important to the show and just I guess maybe the overall I mean, it's really the driving force of, I guess, what will be the rest of the season, which is, I think he says something like to the effect of, like, I've just been waiting to die. I haven't been living. And
he says something else interesting in that scene. I wanted to break it down, but let's go ahead and do it now. But
nursing my dignity or something.
Yeah, exactly. So he basically, this is all gonna, I'm sure, be revealed, but the hint is that it's a tie into the whole thing with the synths, like something, because Starfleet didn't listen to him about something. He felt like, as one would, like, this organization that I love is no longer like, it's no longer like listening to me. I'm no longer a part of it. I'm just being ordered to do things. And you do get the sense of that in the movies already, where they hold him back from engaging the Borg in First Contact. They, like, Picard's already starting to be left out of the loop, so to speak.
Right.
And
let's go ahead. Let's quote Insurrection for a third time. Go ahead. I give you permission. I mean, there is a corrupt Starfleet, admiral there,
forming.
Which
it's true. Yeah.
And
we were pointing this out on the TNG discussion. There's a shit ton of corrupt admirals all throughout TNG, going all the way back to even Admiral Jameson, who we sympathize with, is using this, like, drug to stay young, to get in it. I mean, there's like
that does, it is kind of a trope for Star Trek.
Yeah, it's definitely like a reoccurring theme. Which we seem to think didn't happen in the original series. I have this, like, halcyon idea of the original series. We haven't gotten back to the original series, but it might also be. It may have been prevalent since all along. There of this mistrust of the Starfleet there. But the Federation also is now declining. Whereas before, the Federation seemed like the ideal, like the shining city on the hill, so to speak, which is what Starfleet served. So you had torchbearers of justice and goodness or whatever, such as Picard, and then you had these bad admirals, like tons of them.
Right.
I'm putting you to sleep. I gotta.
No, please, no. It is late for me. I mean, remember, I wake up at 4.
We're doing pretty good on time. I think for an initial reaction, we're doing really great.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so in that scene, he talks about that, and then he mentions what you said about like he's been waiting to die, and it is heartbreaking, actually, that scene, because you don't want your hero to have ever gone through that. For 20 years, he's been like kind of feeling lost in a sense. And I actually remembered what was interesting is I love the parallel that he ends up in the same place in a different way. Things are totally different of what Q had shown him in that other reality, right? But he is in the same place. He is
interesting
on the vineyard. He's gone there to retreat. He's retired. We don't see the signs of the advanced aromatic syndrome so far, so that's reassuring. Hopefully he doesn't have it, but those vivid, strange dreams could be an indicator that there is something neurological going on with him that we don't know about, or he could be really good at hiding things. Who knows? He does seem tired, as one would be, but like in the Federation, in this time of Star Trek, McCoy lives to be 140 or 150 or something like that, and
right.
So one expects the same from Picard, so 90's nothing in that sense.
No, that's true, absolutely.
But so then he goes to Okinawa, as I was saying, to the Daystrom Institute. This is, I think, the first time we see
it is
the Daystrom.
It is the first
Institute we've known about for a long time.
I didn't know it was in Japan. Did you?
No, I think this is something that has been created. I'll have to research, but I believe this is what obviously, a lot of people don't like this, but I think it's just natural. There's a lot of vagueness in fiction, period. Like, especially long-going things like this. You will hear about the Daystrom Institute, but you may never they may never mention where it is. It's just because the way shows work is like they were like, well, we don't want to say where it is because then we're locked into that later. Well, this is the later, and now they've done it.
And now they've shown it.
I think, because I don't remember, at least not from my knowledge. Now, Voyager is a dark spot in my knowledge, and if the Daystrom Institute came up in Voyager, I don't know about it.
I think this is the first.
This is the first time we see the Daystrom Institute. We also learned in the beginning, which I didn't mention, that Daj had been accepted into the Daystrom Institute. So she was actually celebrating with her boyfriend. That's what started her. Our introduction was to her was that she was celebrating with her boyfriend the fact that she had gotten into the Daystrom Institute. And it's interesting and perhaps safe to assume that she goes to MIT. If MIT still exists in Boston.
Well, I mean, he's the... What is Data? Is he the Cambridge chair at...
He's the Lucasian chair at Cambridge University.
Oh, he's at Cambridge. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, he's at Cambridge. Right. He held the same seat that Sir Isaac Newton and Stephen Hawking... Was Stephen Hawking a Sir? Was he Sir Stephen? He was Sir Stephen Hawking, was he?
I don't know.
Was he knighted?
I don't know.
I think he was.
I don't remember him being knighted.
Well, anyways, the Lucasian chair is what, which is really nice at Cambridge University. But
and we meet.
Anyway, What's that?
No, that we meet this doctor at the Daystrom Institute.
So we get to and we meet Agnes Girardi is her name.
Really cool character.
Cool character, yeah. She's awesome.
Pardon me.
And she is kind of depressed, actually. So Picard comes to her and he's like, hey, can you tell me if this is possible? A living android, like not a living android, what does he call it, like a
a flesh and blood sentient android,
a Cylon.
There we go, for lack of a better word.
2.0 Cylon 2.0 is basically what it is, which is an interesting thing for Star Trek to have brought in.
Well, the original show had that. I believe the original show had flesh and blood androids.
Yes, Rock simulated, but not quite to this level. This is a biological enhanced.
Well, we don't know what we saw.
Oh yeah, we don't. But
we don't.
I'm assuming it's some kind of biological enhanced being with a positronic brain.
Right. Obviously, the key is
happening.
The positronic brain is the
brain.
key to all this. Right. Yeah.
Is all this right?
Yeah. And we see before.
We get the before. We wondered in the trailers if it was the before or
we
lore.
Wonder? Yeah. Oh, did we wonder? And it is before, which I thought that was.
And subverting all expectations because a lot of people who follow the comics were hoping that would come true. Where in the comics, the B4 actually is able to, Data is able to but this does not happen. And I actually, to be honest, I think we talked about this, but I like this because Data is actually dead.
Yes, it gives Nemesis some weight. I have to say, one of the things that I really liked about this what this episode, this show has done so
premiere,
far.
Yep.
The premiere is that it has lent it has lent Nemesis some legitimacy.
Well deserved.
Well deserved, because you and I have always been big defenders of the movie, and I have met a lot of people who crapped on Nemesis, and I think what happened is that, everyone has forgotten that Nemesis came out the same day as the Two Towers. And everybody went to go see the Two Towers.
It's true.
I mean, you and I were
bad.
in a theater watching Nemesis, but at least I was. You were too.
We saw them both. We were the nerds that saw everything.
Right, but I saw Nemesis first.
Yeah, I saw Nemesis first too.
and I think somehow the all that, obviously didn't do as well. I think all that kind of, got to people, and then the fact that Data died, which upset people as well. But
my sister was like that was she couldn't talk about it. Wow. She loved Data so much, and she's not like.
I remember that. I remember you telling me that. Yes.
Yeah, she's not one to express a lot of feelings about. By the way, she loved.
I'm sure she did.
She loved this. She's not one to express a lot of feelings about Star Trek. She watches it, she likes it, but she doesn't talk about it like we do often. But that was a situation where I was like, "Wow, Rena really loves Star Trek." Like, and Data in particular. So shout out to my sister, who's turning 40, by the way, very soon.
Wow, happy birthday!
I know, unbelievable. My baby sister, which places me at a precarious position. Because
how old are we then?
I'm 42, and you're 40.
I must be 79.
You're gonna turn 45.
Get the frack out of here!
You're turning 45. All right, we got okay. Back to Picard. Back to Picard.
So. Yeah, no.
He goes to Daystrom Institute, meets Dr. Girardi, and they start talking. And she's like, "Well, our best chance of having a sentient," she said, "we're like within reach of having a biological android, a synthetic life form that has blood and flesh, as Picard refers to it." But what we believe we're 1,000 years from is Data, like that kind of life form, that level of sentience.
Right.
And she said the B4 was not, unfortunately, it was not successful. It was inferior, and the positronic matrix couldn't hold. Just like, not in the same way, but similar to like Lal didn't hold.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So they're talking, and it's kind of depressing too, because since the attack on Mars, that whole lab is just research only.
It's only theoretical, yeah.
And you can see there's like empty desks and workstations, and it's a beautiful lab.
Yeah. Bruce Maddox is mentioned in this conversation.
So that's
a callback. That's kind of a deep callback that I had to.
It's super deep because it's the measure of a man, first of all, but also Data's day. So measure of a man, right? They had a relationship, and so we know that Data was actually helping him with his research. So actually, Dr. Maddox or Commander Maddox, but Bruce Maddox, I'm assuming he's a doctor, or PhD, or beyond, like multiple PhDs. But he is probably the closest to knowing what Data would know about cybernetics and positronic brains. But even Data wasn't. What's interesting about Daj, if she is what we think she is, to quote Picard, is that this is, according to Dr. Girardi here, the impossibility of 1,000 years from now that she didn't see us reaching. It looks like somehow Daj is that, and that's what Picard says. But I'm telling you, I saw a sentient android of what I just described to you, who I had tea with, and then he shows her the necklace. He's like, does this mean anything to you? And that's when she puts something together and we put something together, which is, she says that this is a wild idea that Maddox was working on, where all he needed was one positronic neuron. If one neuron survived of Data, then from that neuron you could reconstruct an entire successful positronic brain, everything including memories. So the process creates it in pairs, so you get a twin. And that's what Daj, and we find out Daj's twin, who's out there, and now Picard and us were like, holy crap, so Daj is dead, but there is this other living android, if you will.
There is another.
And so once we get that, we cut to the other. We now go to the reclamation base, is it called?
Romulan Reclamation Zone.
And there's a cool... Those Romulan Marauders or whatever, those little small craft were cool as hell. They looked very appropriate, apropos Romulan.
Yeah, they kind of... Yeah, it looked like what would follow what we saw in Nemesis.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so they are flying into this base of some kind, which we saw from the trailer and we knew what this was. But anyways, they still
but the reveal is fantastic.
Is fantastic. It's 100% fantastic. Yeah. So we meet Dr. Asher, who is Daj's twin sister, and she apparently knows she has a sister.
That threw me off.
That threw me off too. My sister had an interesting idea, which I'll share. Because anyways, so we also meet Harry Treadwell's character, Narek, who is a Romulan, and I'm not sure what his role is at this point, but they're together, and she and he start to have a rapport of some kind, because he's like, oh, you fix broken things all day, or broken people all day, and then she's like, no, I'll totally listen.
So what kind of doctor do you think she is then? Do you think she's a psychologist? Is that what you think?
I have no idea. Speculation though, yeah, something, but but if she's as smart as her sister was, and who was going to the Daystrom Institute, she must be some kind of phenom at whatever she does. She also doesn't seem to be activated. She doesn't seem to know what she is, and she has the twin of that. And I love, by the way, the remnants of what I think is the Romulan supernova is what we see in the next scene, which is the two, again, also twins, and the whole thing with Romulus and Remus and stuff like that.
Oh my lord, I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah, so that was a kind of a cool all that. Well, I'm telling you, it's just such a great show. It's a great freaking Star Trek. It's the first Star Trek show since that goes forward. There's just everything is wonderful. Everything you just get to you're not worried about freaking continuity, because there is. It's making continuity. It's making continuity. It's a beautiful place to be as a viewer. It's a less stressful place to be.
As a longtime fan,
as a longtime fan, all these things. So go forward. Just go forward. Learn. I hope we learned. I hope that we've learned. I know George. We love what George Lucas did in the prequels, but you can't always.
Well, that was different. That was different. Yeah.
All right. So wait. So that's it. Conclusion. We find out it's a Borg.
It's a Borg cube. Yeah. The remnants of a Borg cube. Yeah.
The remnants of a Borg cube. Some kind of modified cube, and boom. That's it.
Right.
That's the end. We got it. We did it. We did the summary. Wow. The summary discussion. The reaction.
In an hour and 22 minutes.
An hour and 22. Not bad. That's kind of like what we were hoping for. So what? Going back real quick, questions. Wait, what is? What is
An hour and 22 minutes to summarize a 46-minute show. I mean, yeah.
Hey, that's not bad actually. We discussed a lot.
Sure.
There were a lot of Easter eggs. And
there's a lot to
references and
discuss.
stuff like that. There's a lot to discuss.
Lots to discuss.
What did you think? What any speculation as to what you think's going on? Like, what do you where are we headed? No idea, right?
I mean, like I said, I like the mystery format.
It seems to be done really well.
My
setup
thoughts
is great.
Yeah, my thoughts are this. This is a very unusual Star Trek, let's say, first episode. You know, with all the other shows, you know, I've always kind of ranked them because I think the tradition has been that the premiere episode, you know, sets the tone in a lot of ways for the show. And I mean, for me, Deep Space Nine's premiere is still the best.
Totally agree with that.
Which, you know, also has Picard in it. So that makes 3 premiere episodes that feature Picard, because obviously, you know, Encounter at Farpoint has Picard. I mean, if I were to rank this one against the other ones, I actually would have to kind of put it in the middle, because you know, I think a premiere episode should test the main character, in both you know, just you know, mentally, physically, you know, on all levels. Which obviously, you know, Sisko goes through the ringer. I mean, he encounters these beings from another, you know, almost existence, and you know, Picard in Encounter at Farpoint is, I mean, he's representing humanity. He's put on trial by this omnipotent being.
100%. I think, though, I would propose separating it even more, because this is, well, first of all, we're in the new age of storytelling, right? The serialized kind of like long story, right? They compared it to how Game of Thrones reveals things over time or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But all those premieres that you referred to, the 2 other premieres, had 2 hours to tell their story. This is not a traditional premiere in that sense either.
Right, yeah, we haven't seen...
minutes.
Yeah.
We haven't really... So these first 3 episodes is how it was released to the previews. You know, the premiere was released as... I think these first 3 episodes are going to be that, what you're looking for.
Right.
I think.
Right. No, but even with what we've seen so far, I don't feel we're going to get... You know, for me, the top 2 are The Cage and Deep Space Nine. It's not that kind of premiere. I feel this is more like a... Because, this is more... I feel this is more like Enterprise, where it was very focused on building the Star Trek world that we're going to be in. And this is definitely... This is bringing us up to date on what's been going 100%. On for the last... 30 years? So it
breaks from tradition in another sense. All the other shows were starting us with a new story, whether it was a new crew of the Enterprise, a new, you know, thing or whatever. This is not a continuation of TNG in the sense of like a perfectly, you know, but it is a continuation of TNG. A continuation.
This is a very different animal. Yeah, very different.
This is something totally new, and I think it's new. Exciting. Yeah. 100%.
This is really, you know, so I found that experience different, because, you know, typically, you know, we're being introduced to somebody new, and how do they stand up to this great challenge and all this stuff. But here, instead, we've got somebody that we know already
very well.
Very well. This almost felt like, I mean, I don't want to diminish it by any way with this word that I'm using, but it felt like an epilogue almost. Like
I love that.
You know, this is going into maybe the last great adventure for this character, and
that is looming. And I think it's not. It's a reality. It's the reality. I
Right,
mean, you
right.
know, I think this is going to be Patrick Stewart's Aria de Capua, or what do you call that? The
the
for
swan
Picard
song,
for this character. The swan. I hate that word because like, it's the same kind of connotation though as an epilogue or whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think this is going to be the final note in this. This is the final note in the story of Picard, if you will,
Well,
to use a cheesy.
Well, I'll compare it again
marketing.
to Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
There's a cotton industry in the last Sherlock Holmes adventure.
Right.
We saw one recently with Ian McKellen,
Right.
which I thought was pretty interesting, and I think this is the. The other thing this show kind of reminded of is when we were growing up, there was a lot of reunion movies, and this kind of had the same feel, like they bring the old actors back, and okay, the old actor doesn't run as fast anymore, but there's a younger person to kind of do the fighting for him,
right?
And
it
kind of reminded me of that, and I was like, oh, okay, I loved reunion movies, even when it was a show I didn't watch. There was something charming
That's true.
about seeing people returning to a role that they used to
Can we get a
play.
MacGyver? Can we get a MacGyver?
Can we get it? God, please, and get rid of the new one.
I haven't even seen the new one. I'm
it's
really
garbage.
kind of
It's
afraid.
crap. But no, I
By the way, we
Yeah.
totally failed to mention that the episode is called Remembrance, which fits to what you were just saying.
there we go.
Like an epilogue is kind of like a remembrance of things in a sense.
True enough. That's true.
And then finishing off the story. I just want to go to IMDb because I really want to give shout outs and credits, which we hardly ever do, and we apologize that it's just not a part of it. It's casual and informal discussion. We normally don't do that very well or consistently, but for this I would really like to. So let's see if we can get how do you get on here? IMDb, come on.
Well, while you're looking for that, I'll just say that the only thing that, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. I'm intrigued by the mystery aspect of it. I think the idea of him, as I said before, kind of like the gothic qualities of it, I enjoyed a lot, and. Even the Picard living in this grandiose house, the chateau, had that going, and looking through a library for clues, which was obviously the Starfleet archive, and then the idea of a twin, the use of twin characters is something that comes up a lot in Gothic mysteries and. But I thought she was dead. Oh no, she had a twin. I thought that was,
Well, and then it ties it nicely to the Romulans, which is all about mirrors and twins.
And of course, and he had a twin.
In Nemesis, he had a twin as well.
He had it right, and this is picking right after Nemesis.
It's like
he dealt with
one
his
of those
twin, and now he has to deal with Data's.
It's just layered. It's so layered. I feel.
Yeah.
But it works. Like it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's not layered where it hits you in the head. Okay, so I was able to put up the IMDb, and for season 1, apparently rumored that the next episode's title is Maps and Legends.
Nice.
Interesting. So Remembrance, which so far has a 9.0 rating from 17 users and 9 critics. Very cool. If I'm reading this correctly, 9.0. 428 ratings gave it a 9.0 out of 10. That's amazing. I don't usually see high ratings like that on IMDb. Anyways, we already talked about Hanel M. Culpepper, who's the director. So again, kudos to you. Yeah. The writers of this were Akiva Goldsman and Michael Chabon, who we've seen in interviews leading up to this. And then there's 5 other credits, including Kristen Bayer and Alex Kurtzman. So obviously, they all worked together on this. Was their brainchild, if you will. And then aside from Patrick Stewart, you have Alison Pill, who we meet, who plays Dr. Agnes Girardi, who I got the name of the character right, which I'm happy about. We didn't mention Daj's sister's name, which is Soji, Soji, Soji. And those characters are played by Issa Briones. And we did mention Lore, but there's the twin also. I wonder if Daj and
I want to talk about... I mean, I don't know if you want to, but I want to.
Let's pause to talk about Lore.
I think where is Lore? I mean, I called you middle of the day, or I texted you.
That was your big. That was my big question.
Big thing. Right after I called you as soon as I was done with the frickin' thing. I was like,
we both kind
Lore?
of came to the conclusion that possibly he's with Section 31.
Right, but I would yeah, that's what.
Do you think so? I think we're gonna find out.
I think we need to. I mean, you say what speculations do I have or whatever. Well, I speculate that we're going to find out what happened to Lore, and that Lore is well. I mean, the idea of the rogue synths
is very touching on.
Lore-inspired rebellion on the Borg with Hugh, and Hugh is coming back.
Lore was dismantled by Data in the episode that Hugh came back.
Turned off.
As a matter of fact, was turned off, and I think they say he was dismantled.
Well, like B4 was okay.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes sense to dismantle him. Yeah. In fact, Data was found dismantled by Starfleet. He was never assembled. So
can I propose something?
Yes. Okay.
So the MacGuffin here is the magical the neuron whatever theory. One single neuron can.
Yep.
Okay, but they don't have Data's neurons. But whose neurons do they have?
Maddox would totally do it.
Would he take one from Lore?
There was always something sinister about Maddox, and he had to be reined in. I mean, the fact that he wanted to create an army of Datas.
So he took Lore's neurons, and then that's why they're.
Yeah, I think Maddox is a calm mad scientist.
He's a calm dude.
Do you know what I mean? Like
he's
the Peter Cushing of mad science. And as a matter of fact, the performer who plays Maddox, whose name I can't remember, has that kind of.
Is he on the show though? He's not credited.
They've never mentioned we find this out.
I know. I thought that was kind of weird because
I actually didn't expect Maddox to be so involved, but I'm actually excited about it. I think it puts a great new twist on things, and it does set up nicely for the possibility of what you just said about Lore's neuron. So who knows? It could be a Lore neuron that created Daj and Soji, which would also be wonderful because we also like in Star Trek the idea of that you can transcend what you are born from. So and that's what Picard was trying to tell Shinzon the whole time. It's like, yes, you were made for this purpose, but you can transcend that. You're not right. You don't need to be like this, this evil thing or whatever.
Right. Well, to counter my own argument, I
I like that you're doing that because you won't counter it, Starfleet boy.
is that I mean, if I don't think it can be Lore's neurons that were involved with the twins we've seen so far, because that would totally undo the whole connection with Data and the painting.
No, right.
It's true. But I would like to see, or I would like to know.
What do you think that is, though? Why would Data? I think Maddox designed her after he must have seen the painting. Data and he were friends. They
corresponded all the time.
So naming the painting daughter and knowing that Lal, was a failed experiment, maybe he created Daj in the image of that painting as an homage to his friend. So that could be a nice thing.
Right. So that now we return Maddox to not being so nefarious, but a more understanding and almost someone who wanted to honor his friend,
which I think is more the case.
Right. So it's there's a lot of possibilities here that I
which is exciting not to know which one is going to be the case, but they're all kind of exciting possibility. Issa Briones is a newcomer to me, but she was in Hamilton. That's I think how she was renowned before. Was great. I liked her a lot. Then we get Harry Treadway, who I've followed for a long time. He was in The City of Ember. Do you remember that?
Oh my God, with Bill Murray? Yeah.
Yeah, he's in that movie, and I first discovered him. He's twins. There's Harry, and then I forget his twins' name, but they both perform. They're both actors, and so speaking of twins, oddly enough,
and curious,
they're twin actors. Lots of twinning going on here. Orla Brady played Laris, which is the name of the Romulan caretaker. Yeah. Sean had mentioned that they are former Tal Shiar, but I don't know how he knows that, if that's from the Countdown comic or where he got that information. But both of those,
interesting.
Which isn't that great? Wouldn't you want the Tal Shiar, frickin' former Tal Shiar agents, like protecting?
I'd hire them. Yeah.
I'd hire them too. Which would explain why they
which
would explain why they're always checking the feeds and why they retrieved him, were able to retrieve him, and why they're so involved in the investigation as well. They're they are his partners in crime. And then David Carswell played Dodge's boyfriend. Maren Dungy played the interviewer.
She's
Jamie
from Alias.
McShane. Oh, that's right. Oh, wow.
She's
Jamie
Francie.
McShane played Zaban, who's the other Romulan that we meet in this episode.
The other Romulan.
The male.
Oh, the guy. Okay, all right. The guy with the beard. Okay, got it.
The Index, the holographic Index, was played by Maya Eshett. So, and then the Tellarite, which appears, I don't know if you noticed it, I forgot to mention, there is a Tellarite. He's part of the team of the reporter. He's one of the characters that are behind the scenes.
That.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that.
And he's played by someone named Douglas Tailt. And then number 1, the dog is called De Niro. And of course, Brett Spiner was Data. So that's the cast of this first episode. So shout outs to all of them because they did a great job. There were a lot of complaints on the internet about Data not looking right. I didn't have a problem with it. What about you?
Yeah, the eyes bothered me. But
the full yellow. But really?
The eyes, those aren't his eyes. I mean, I don't know if I don't think he's wearing contacts. I think they're just doing it digitally. Is that what it is? That's what it looks.
I didn't catch if they actually dilated. If they did, then yeah, there's a little bit of digital augmentation going on there.
I feel when he's playing cards, there's something about it doesn't look. I mean, but of course, I mean, I play it off. Oh, it's a dream. It doesn't matter. I feel like he looked more like himself. And during the second dream sequence when they're in uniform.
Yeah, he did look a lot more like. I agree with that.
So I don't know.
But I actually just didn't mind. I kind of like that too. The fact that it's a dream, but I also thought like it's cool that Picard ages him in his mind, like his subconscious ages Data, because Data was supposed to age.
Oh! I didn't even think of that. I just think his eyes looked off.
Another little cool tidbit is that during the first scene, he's wearing the Nemesis style uniform Data is, and in the second scene he's wearing the TNG era uniform, which he would have probably been wearing when he painted that.
When he painted it, right? Yeah,
that painting.
That would make sense. Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. What else?
What did you think of when they were during the lead up to the interview? The choice of stills that they used.
I thought that was great. We see Worf, so we actually do. We
saw Worf. Right. We see there's always the Worf, but there's a part of me thinking to myself, who took that picture? Because that episode is from.
We've always said this because it's like how do they have the exact footage in Star Trek 4 from Star Trek 3, and in Star Trek 3 how do they have the exact footage from Star Trek 2?
We always ask that question.
Yeah, we always ask that question. So it's good that they followed along the same same path here in Picard. Yeah. Going back to the tabernacle, what do we want to call that? The museum, I call it a tabernacle, but I don't know what it could be. What else it could be? But
it's his vault. It's the Picard vault.
I guess the Picard vault. Fine.
Yeah.
But
we
going
saw
back to the vault, we do
see
Worf's effects, the Bathlet, and the. Well, actually, the Bathlet. It's not Worf's. It's when he was his.
No, it's right. It's right. That's what I meant to say.
There's the Bathlet, and there's also the blade there. We see the Captain Picard Day banner, which is great. I love that, and I have a Captain Picard Day mug, as you know. And I have to just go back and inspect it further. So I mentioned earlier about Discovery effects that were in Picard.
Oh, so, do tell, because I know nothing about it.
So did you notice the replicator, like the way it emits is brand new, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like how it like shoots a beam and it constructs it almost like it's a lot slower. Before it looked like just it transported into existence, right?
Yeah.
Now it like almost, you can almost see it like constructing that. And by the way,
they have that in Discovery.
Tea Earl Grey decaf.
Decaf. Yeah. What does that even mean? I'm not a coffee person.
It means he doesn't use caffeine anymore. He's like, which a lot of older folks do. They stop drinking caffeine.
Oh, is that what? Okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't need the caffeine.
I'll still have a cup of. I'm already low caffeine, but I'll have a cup of coffee when I'm older.
I didn't understand. Since I'm not a coffee drinker, I didn't understand.
Well, it was tea. That was tea in this case. But you don't drink tea either?
No, I don't drink tea or coffee. None in my system. No. I hate tea, and I loathe coffee.
So your librarian character would do orange juice, cold, chilled.
Chocolate milk.
I forgot you love chocolate milk. There's a couple of
actually, I've had to stop drinking a lot of that.
Oh,
yeah,
same here.
Yeah,
we all have to.
Too much. Yeah,
I could totally relate to Picard getting old, man. This whole.
You know what? I want to talk a little bit about. I mean, it's already 10 o'clock, but we both have to go to work tomorrow. But
we do. And I got to publish this tonight. We're gonna put it up tonight.
Shit, you're right. Okay, so let's wrap it up. But I do just want to say that I am intrigued to see how the show is going to play out with. I mean, what is he? 77? He's close to 80, right?
I think he's supposed to be in his 90s, if I'm not mistaken.
No, the actor.
Oh, the actor, yes. He's 73, if I'm not mistaken.
73, right. I mean, there
aren't many. The great Patrick Stewart is 73.
There aren't many shows of the 73-year-old lead, you know. So, but it kind of reminds me of Doctor Who when it first started. You know, you had the older actor. The show is named after him, but yet you have these supporting characters who do, you know, different things. Yeah, it has a lot of. Yeah. So I'm curious to see, because this is something else that Star Trek really hasn't done.
Wasn't like the third iteration of Perry Mason an aged Perry Mason, like when it came back, like the third or fourth, or did it just?
You know, that's interesting. It's so interesting that you mentioned that, because I was thinking a lot about Perry Mason. Actually, not because of Picard, because of I watched the Next Generation episode.
Oh, the one that we were going to talk about that we didn't.
Yeah, with Worf.
With Paul Sorvino, who was in that.
Took over for Perry Mason.
Yeah, for Perry Mason, that's right.
And those reunion movies, you're right. And in the reunion movies, I mean, as they got towards the end, Raymond Burr really didn't do much. And he had, I think it was William Catt from Greatest American Hero would do all the sleuthing
and all that. That's
and all that stuff. So again, this show kind of gave me a warm and fuzzy feeling of those TV movies.
It reminded you a lot of that, which we haven't really seen.
Because I watched a lot of that stuff, and I kind of okay, you know.
Wow.
So Picard kind of had that feeling of like an old 80s reunion movie. And then we're obviously going to see Riker and Troy soon.
We haven't even met. Yeah, you know, this episode's so awesome already and really great start, and we haven't even met the rest of the cast, the regular cast. Right. Like, it's great. I love.
Do we want to give this a rating?
I think we
should. I tempt you? No, because I know what you're going to give it. So I'm not.
Well, but I want to know what you would give it.
What I would give it?
Yeah. Should I just? You already know my. I'm going to give this
10.
I'm at or unrateable. Doctor, did I not prove to you that I was going to give that rating in my discussion? I mean, like, is there any surprise here at all? Like, throughout the discussion, was there any point?
It's not often you pull the unrateable. I think
I don't often pull. I did it
with Best of Both Worlds. I think, and
I did it recently.
Light was unrateable.
Yeah, I think it was, and then recently I just did it with the Pegasus episode, because it's almost a perfect episode too. It's a really great episode. But I think I did that more to be showy. This one's real.
It's always real with you, man.
It's always real.
It's always real with you.
It is real.
I mean, well, let me just give some negatives before I give the rating.
Yeah, we haven't even. I thought for a second that I was gonna get by with you not having any qualms with this episode.
No, I really hated the opening titles. I thought the opening titles were terrible.
I totally love them, so we don't agree on that one.
Yeah,
but I could see how
boring.
I could see how you didn't like them, but I like it because I think this is also a new TV thing, and Star Trek's gonna do it too. Throughout the series, I think those credits will evolve and give us clues as to what's going on. Game of Thrones.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what's going to happen?
That's what's going to happen. I think. Maybe. We'll see. It would be really neat. I love the score. Unlike I think you didn't think the score was memorable.
Well, I didn't think the opening titles.
Right. Sorry, the opening title was not memorable.
The score was great.
The score was
Jeff
Russo. I really like him, but I actually like it. I like the little solo string and the solo flute or whatever it is. And there is the little do at the end, at the end. But I ate it up. I loved it. And in fact, I can't wait for the soundtrack. I really wish Star Trek would do what The Mandalorian did, which was so great. Which was every episode, the day they released the episode, they released a whole almost an hour soundtrack for each episode as a companion to The Mandalorian. So there's 8 albums of music. You didn't know this?
I didn't know this. Where do you get that?
On whatever you have, Amazon streaming, whatever, it's all there. The Mandalorian chapters 1 through 8 of the soundtrack are just as rich as the episodes.
But how do you? I mean, I
stream
watch
them.
On
I do it on
iTunes,
and then you get the music on iTunes or whatever your service is. It's an album.
My service is.
It's like the soundtrack, but they released it the day of, they drop it the same day as the episode.
But you have to buy it.
No, well, I have a streaming service, so I just listen to it. I'm paying a monthly fee to listen to everything.
Another thing I hate. Yeah, I hate the way we watch television now. I detest it. I don't understand.
You don't like having the soundtrack?
No, I would like to, but I don't understand the whole. I watch it on Disney Plus. I don't watch it through Amazon.
How do you listen to music online?
Spotify.
Okay, I guarantee you they're all on Spotify.
Okay, all right.
They have to be, because Spotify is very.
Well, I mean, Spotify is free. Well, I mean, it's not free, but I'm paying for it.
You listen to an ad or whatever, but yeah,
Emma's
they're there.
Paying for it. They're there. I had no idea.
They're there.
I had no clue. Wow.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say. It was released the day. I didn't know you didn't know that.
I had no idea.
I was privately enjoying this, and I never mentioned I'm a bad friend because I know you like soundtracks.
It's all right. I love soundtracks, and I love.
I was enjoying this. I knew this from episode 2 because I was like, oh, whoa. Episode 1, I was like, what? They released they're gonna probably do this for all the, and they did. They did.
The Mandalorian is just a great show.
Great show.
Overall.
Great show.
I mean, just the
whole.
Oh, okay, yeah.
All right.
You know what? I give it a. It's an 8. I give it an 8.
Wow, that's good.
I give it an 8.
That's really good for you.
Yeah, I like.
But what was
setup?
Other than the opening title music, what other qualms did you have? If any, or nothing of note as yet. You want to get into it a little more. You want to let the show ride a little more.
I mean, for me, rewatch value is huge. So obviously, I haven't rewatched it. So I mean, that's something to be said.
But I got the impression that you would rewatch it.
I would
there's
rewatch
still a
it,
few things to
again,
glean
like
from
I
it.
said, in my head, in my personal rating
system
apparatus,
it's very subjective for both of us.
Right. I just I do like to rank openings of a show with the other Star Trek ones. I'm still, even though
you're still trying to do that. Yeah.
I mean, that's the only way I can. That's the only way I can absorb it is through that prism. So I've got the Cage. I've got Emissary. I've got Encounter at Farpoint. I'm like, okay, those are very different kinds of stories being told here. This one is more like a broken bow. This is more like, more like Broken Bow, but like I said, also very different from everything else that's come before. Also, mentally, I'm comparing it to the Discovery, which is at the bottom. I mean, just at the very bottom. Obviously, this gives me hope, because I mean, I really thought Star Trek was just kaput with Discovery, but I mean, this shows that there's some group of people over at CBS that know how to make a Star Trek show.
Wow, high praise from you, Doctor. Of recent times.
Now, having said that, I just feel that. I mean, again, it's like I said, it's that. Picard's older, so I just don't feel like there's a lot of, he did this, he did all these great things. So there's a lot of remembrance of things that he's done. But in this episode itself, he doesn't do much.
I think it'll be very interesting to talk. I don't think he will. I really don't think
I don't think he will. Like I said, this is an epilogue.
In terms of action.
Right.
I think
but in terms of obviously, I mean, he's figuring things out.
I do think, and I think you support this. He does a lot, but it's just not shown on screen. There's hints of it, like when waking up at the desk. The fact that he travels to so many locations. Sure. I mean, like, and again, he's been sitting around.
I don't want
to. No, but I'm just saying. No, just as a counterpoint to what you said.
Sure.
I think within our own discussion, I think he did a lot more than I. But it's not the same kind of stuff that he did before.
It's not the same
he's
kind
not
of
flying.
Stuff.
He's not flying around in a starship. He doesn't. He can't just make these, these like grand moves. He's working in a different way than we've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a different element. Yeah. And then the other thing, the last thing I'll say is the activation of it kind of reminded me of the Bourne Identity kind of.
We didn't talk about it, but yeah, that is.
It was a little too Bourne for me on that level. I just kind of like
Bourne Trek.
Right.
Interesting. But I think I think that Star Trek. I think that Star Trek, though, the Bourne Identity, that is a part of the Bourne Identity that steals from sci-fi in a way, because that's like an idea that sci-fi has been doing for a while. So it's an interesting point. So with your 8 and my 10, essentially, even if it's unrateable, it gets, for purposes of math.
I think it's a very good. It's a very strong opening for a show. I think it has a lot of value to fans like you and I. I am really curious to know how a show like this plays to a younger audience, because again, going back to the idea that we are basically talking about a much older lead, and I don't know how interesting.
The producer said that this show is meant to reach out to people who know very little about Star Trek, but also to serve, for lack of a better word, people who are deep into Star Trek. As someone who I feel very deeply involved in Star Trek, obviously I've been doing this journey for like a long time, but even before that, you're my attest. You can attest to, both of us can attest to each other's obsessions and many discussions and many thoughts about Star Trek, and it served me great. Like I didn't feel like
it served me great too.
So I think I would be curious to hear from someone who doesn't know as much, or is new to Star Trek is a better way to put it, and see if they found it interesting. I think they will. I think this show does transcend, not as greatly as like a Star Trek 4 would per se, but I think it can transcend and reach that gap. It can bridge the gap. I think this show, again, like I really like Discovery, as we've established, but I think this show does what I think Discovery was trying to do, and they didn't quite know how people would react who are deeply invested in Star Trek, and the reaction wasn't good. Because even though I like the show, I like mainly for me, I fall in love with things by performances. If you're a great performer, if you give a great performance, it's going to steal my heart a little bit. So there's a lot of great performances in Discovery, but I have a lot of qualms with Discovery. I have a lot of problems with its aesthetic, especially, and I think that was a big miss on the part of the production.
I would like to ask you this: I mean, I obviously I can't do this, so but you can answer this question because you watch Discovery. And you kind of alluded to it with the talk about the replicator and the special effect that you said it was seen. Is that's how it's presented on Discovery? Is
exactly the same, but a different receptacle, if you will. Like this receptacle, the replicator itself looks way cooler. And I just realized that replicators have been around since the original series. I just never thought of them as replicators, but they were just different. You the lid was closed, and then you open it, and there was your thing. And then in TNG, you saw it materialize. So that's what was off-putting about Discovery, is that you saw the things materialize, but actually it makes sense that that's what was going on behind the lid, right?
Yes, absolutely.
In TOS. So I don't have a problem with the replicators being in Discovery, but it is the same. They basically pulled the same effect from Discovery. They also use the same shuttles that were wrong, in my opinion, in the Discovery era, but they fit in Picard. So I actually kind of weirdly don't have a problem. I don't care anymore because they actually fit just fine in Picard. They look like they should be in the Federation. So I had no problems with the effects, but I did notice, because I do tune into those things. I did notice that there were some things that were taken from Discovery, as far as effects, and that's fine. Like it was minimal as far as I'm concerned, because those are great ways to save budget. I would rather them skimp on, not create a brand new, rebuild the replicator, and I would rather they reuse the effect like they did it in Star Trek all the time with reusing things from previous iterations of Star Trek. So it's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so I mean, I guess this will be a question maybe you can answer as the show goes on, which is, one of the big problems I had with the Discovery is like you said, the aesthetic and how it looks so much more futuristic, maybe than it's supposed to, and that if everything looks so futuristic here in Discovery, well then we have to up it like tenfold if we go further in the future. How do you feel Picard, from what we saw of this episode, how do you feel that it really furthered what you had seen in Discovery in terms of the visual aesthetic? Do you feel that they're pretty much the same? It looks the same, or do you feel that
this first of all felt like what Discovery is very dark. Like just the aesthetic period. There's a lot of dark stuff going on. So even when we see Starfleet headquarters in Discovery, it's at night. Like things like that. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like we see Paris in Discovery, actually, it's at night. So like there's not a lot of day shots that I can recall. Everything's very dark in Discovery. And so it's the complete opposite, first of all, aesthetics wise. This is what I expected Star Trek to look like. And this to me feels like a natural progression from TNG, and you could probably talk to that as well. The TNG era, this fits in. To me, it fits just right in. Like I have no qualms with the presentation as far as that's concerned. So it does feel like they're definitely upping the ante as far as technology is concerned. But in subtle ways, like what we talked about, like the mechanics, the speculated mechanics behind the archive, the materialization. If I didn't tell you that Discovery did it, you would think, oh, it's a faster, more impressive replicator, right? Because it does look more like formidable.
Well, to me it did, because obviously I right.
Yeah, so it does feel like it's a better version of the replicators that we saw in TNG. So yeah, 100% I feel like it nailed it. It's just, knowing the behind the scenes is that they reused an effect from another show, but that doesn't hinder from it looking more futuristic at all. All right, great. I think we're at the end of our first initial reactions. Before I let you go, Doctor, audience, We'd love if you made it this far. Thank you so much for for listening to our initial thoughts.
What are you guys doing?
We would love to know what you thought. So comment down below. Let us know. What were your favorite scenes? Below. What were your highlights? Did you agree with our ratings? Did you disagree with our ratings? And then please feel free to like and share. I want to stress that there is a fine line of out there of people who want to avoid spoilers and things like that, since the show just came out today. So if you do repost this or share it, please put spoilers for Star Trek Picard, warnings, so that people know what they're getting involved in. Of course, there will be a warning at the beginning of this discussion as well. So that's all I got. Thank you so much for tuning in. Live long and prosper. Doctor, I am so honored that you witnessed this.
I bore witness. I did indeed. No,
what do you think? It was touching. It was touching to talk to you about this. We're good old friends, and so it was very nice.
This is something I never thought we'd see in our. I mean, we our friendship started with Next Generation. How many years ago, and here we are.
We're like, yeah.
Wow, isn't that something?
It is something.
Unbelievable. So yeah.
Hey Doctor, you
here.
and I have memories longer than the road that stretches on ahead.
Wow.
And on that note,
it's deep.
Boom boom. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording.